The 1950s, often remembered for their conformity, were a time of strict societal norms and expectations. Yet, beneath this veneer of uniformity, the seeds of rebellion were quietly taking root. A generation coming of age in the shadow of World War II and the Cold War yearned for something more meaningful and authentic. The Beat generation, with writers like Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg, challenged literary conventions and explored themes of personal liberation and nonconformity. Their words resonated deeply with young people who were hungry for authenticity, change, and a break from the past. The civil rights movement, gaining momentum in the late 1950s and early 1960s, further exposed the hypocrisy and injustices deeply embedded in American society. Figures like Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions with their courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to equality. As the 1960s dawned, a confluence of social, political, and cultural factors created fertile ground for a full-blown countercultural movement. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 left a nation in mourning and deepened the disillusionment with traditional authority figures. The Vietnam War, escalating throughout the decade, further fueled anti-establishment sentiment and widespread protests. From these seeds of rebellion, a vibrant counterculture blossomed, challenging societal norms and demanding a more just and equitable world. Music became the lifeblood of the 1960s counterculture, pulsating through the veins of a generation seeking change. It gave voice to the ideals and dreams of young people everywhere, uniting them in a common cause. Folk music, with its deep roots in protest and storytelling, provided an early soundtrack for the movement. Artists like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez used their powerful voices and poignant lyrics to challenge injustice and inspire change. Rock and roll took on new dimensions in the hands of countercultural artists, becoming a force for rebellion and expression. The Beatles explored themes of love, peace, and self-discovery, pushing musical boundaries and redefining popular music. The Rolling Stones embodied the raw spirit of youthful rebellion, their music a rallying cry for a generation. The music festivals of the era, most notably Woodstock in 1969, became iconic symbols of the counterculture, drawing massive crowds. Hundreds of thousands gathered to celebrate peace, love, and music, creating a sense of unity and shared purpose. The music of the 1960s counterculture transcended boundaries, resonating with people across the globe. It inspired movements for social change worldwide, leaving an indelible mark on history. The Vietnam War cast a long shadow over the 1960s, fueling the anti-war movement. Students facing the draft organized teach-ins, protests, and demonstrations. The anti-war movement embraced non-violent resistance inspired by Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Protests, often met with police brutality, were broadcast into homes, galvanizing public opinion. The image of a young woman placing a flower in a soldier's rifle became an enduring symbol of peace. The slogan, "Make love, not war," encapsulated the generation's rejection of violence. The anti-war movement of the 1960s had a profound impact, helping to end the Vietnam War and fostering a legacy of skepticism towards militarism. Fashion from conformity to individuality. Just as music became a form of expression for the counterculture, so did fashion. It was a powerful medium for individuals to showcase their beliefs and values. The 1950s had emphasized conformity in dress, particularly for women. Fashion was more about fitting in than standing out. The counterculture embraced individuality and self-expression through clothing. It was a stark contrast to the previous decade. Out went conservative dresses and suits, replaced by a riot of color, patterns, and unconventional styles. This shift was both bold and liberating. Tie-dye, with its swirling patterns and psychedelic hues, became synonymous with the counterculture. It was more than just a trend, it was a statement. Blue jeans, once associated with manual labor, became a symbol of rebellion. They were worn by those who sought to challenge the status quo. The counterculture's embrace of natural materials extended to its fashion choices. This was a move towards sustainability and a connection with nature. Leather sandals, flowing cotton dresses, and handcrafted jewelry became popular alternatives. These items reflected a simpler, more authentic lifestyle. The counterculture's influence on fashion continues to shape the way we dress today. Its legacy is evident in modern bohemian styles and sustainable fashion movements. Mind expansion, exploring consciousness and challenging norms. The 1960s counterculture witnessed a profound exploration of consciousness. This exploration took many forms, from Eastern spirituality to psychedelic drugs. Psychologists like Timothy Leary and Ram Dass advocated for the therapeutic potential of psychedelics. Leary's mantra, "Turn on, tune in, drop out," encouraged personal transformation. The use of LSD and other psychedelics became a means of accessing altered states of consciousness. The counterculture's exploration of consciousness fueled interest in alternative therapies. It helped to destigmatize conversations about mental health and paved the way for the mindfulness movement. Lasting legacy, the enduring impact of the 1960s counterculture. The 1960s counterculture left an indelible mark on society. Its echoes can be felt in our music, fashion, politics, and values. The counterculture's emphasis on peace, love, and understanding continues to inspire movements for social justice. The environmental movement owes a debt to the counterculture's embrace of nature and critique of consumerism. The counterculture's challenge to traditional gender roles helped pave the way for the women's liberation and LGBTQ+ rights movements. Its celebration of individuality created space for marginalized voices. The 1960s counterculture was a time of great social and cultural ferment, leaving a legacy of activism that shapes our world today. Conclusion: a new world forged in the fires of dissent. The 1960s counterculture was a time of profound change, challenging the established order. It was a time of great hope and turmoil as the nation grappled with war and social unrest. The counterculture was not a monolithic movement, and its legacy is complex, yet its impact is undeniable. The music, fashion, protests, and ideas from this era continue to shape our world. The counterculture's spirit of questioning authority and demanding a more just world inspires activists today. The counterculture